Attractive people get away with everything. Hi, I'm back. Let's get into it. Last we left, Namun Young had just convinced the witness, Mr. Doe, to meet with her and explain what her missing husband promised him. And the witness was on his way to meet her, but he was being followed. Namun Young arrives at their meeting spot, but he's nowhere to be found, and his motorcycle is laying on the side of the road. Namun Young gets out to investigate. Suddenly, she hears a gunshot. When she looks over, she sees the witness, Mr. Doe, struggling with someone, but she can't make out their face. She calls out and yells that she's calling the police, and the person runs away. When she finally gets down to him, she finds Mr. Doe bleeding from the stomach. She asks him, "Who shot you? Who did this?" In a weak voice, he says, "Do you really want to know? Your husband." And he passes out. But you know who comes with the ambulance? That detective. The next day, Mr. Doe wakes up in the hospital and remembers that the person who tried to hurt him could find him anytime. So he immediately gathers his belongings and flees. Then he texts Namun Young to meet him at a certain address. Namun Young shows up, but she doesn't see Mr. Doe. She decides to look around the home and sees a postcard from her father-in-law's foundation addressed to someone named Wang Tae-soo. The postcard said that they were happy to continue working with Wang Tae-soo, and she's really confused. So she decides to go to her father-in-law's foundation and ask them directly. A woman at the front desk tells her that the corporation wanted to bulldoze the area for a resort, but there were a lot of issues with the tenants, so they partnered with Namun Young's father-in-law's foundation to create an initiative that would send relocation money to people in the area if they agreed to leave. While Namun Young is still trying to figure out this mystery, she gets a call to go to the law firm. We see that there's chaos at the firm. Someone broke in, threw the furniture around, and opened all the drawers. Just then, a bunch of clients come into the law firm and they start yelling about how the law firm owes them money. Then, a bunch of debt collectors come into the office and they say that they need their money ASAP. When Namun Young arrives, she sees her father in law helping the paralegals. He tells her that he wants to step in and try to help her resolve these things as much as he can. He also tells her that he paid off the debt collectors, so things should be quiet for a while. Just when we're thinking that finally Namun Young can exhale and one member of this family can help her, he suddenly turns around and tells the paralegals to leave. When they sit down, the first thing he says is, "Collecting your husband's life insurance won't be easy." Namun Young says that she's not even thinking about that right now, but then he says, "Well, how else are you going to pay off this debt?" Yes, that's right. The same debt he just told the paralegals and a bunch of other people that he took care of. Now he's telling her to use her husband's life insurance to pay it off. He tells her he wants her to quote unquote just go back to normal and that her husband's life insurance will not pay everything because of the way he exited the earth. She looks heartbroken, and you can tell she's thinking, how could he do this to me? How could he do this to our daughter? Speaking of her daughter, she comes home and she sees her daughter clutching a pillow because it smells like her dad. As Namun Young brings her daughter in tight, she starts to remember her own youth. A few years older from the day her dad mumbled something to her and abandoned her, she's standing at the edge of a cliff. She's overlooking the sea and getting closer and closer to the edge. She's about to step off of it when a young boy grabs her and tells her not to do it. We find out that that young boy was Cha Sung Jae, her husband. He saved her all those years ago and had shown her such love, but look where they are now. Overwhelmed by these memories, she walks downstairs to get a glass of water. All of a sudden, we see someone moving behind her. She feels, a presence. So she gets closer to the front door to make sure it's locked when all of a sudden that same person knocks her over and runs out. The next morning, the police are there and that detective is back, and I don't know what kind of mood he woke up in. So first he asks, "Are there any cameras around the house?" He finds out there aren't. Then he says, "Well, when your husband's law firm was broken into, nothing was missing then either. Interesting. Trespassing and breaking in with no intent to steal twice? And the detective continues and says, "Wow, Namun Young, the smart attorney, doesn't know about her husband's finances. The only way you can collect that life insurance money is if your husband didn't do this to himself. You just so happen to witness a pew pew with a witness associated with one of your husband's cases. What are the odds of that? I mean, if this was a crime of passion, you do know it had to be an accident to alleviate the guilt. Namun Young looks at him, and just like you're supposed to do with the shark, she punches him right on the nose. And he looks shocked. Don't act shocked. Next, we cut to him gone because I guess he realized that she was not in the mood to be messed with that day. She installs cameras around the house and examines pictures of the foundation that her father in law runs. In these pictures, she sees the witness, Mr. Doe, Wang Tae Soo, and she sees the employee suspect who is gone. She then sees the witness coming up to her house. He says he's there to pick up the keys to his motorcycle, but she immediately asks him, "Why did you not meet me at the place you said you would?" Of course, he doesn't answer. He's very attractive, and I've learned that attractive people basically do whatever they want. So instead, he just tells her that he only followed her and the employee suspect because he was worried. So she tries again. "And why would my husband come back to life and pew pew you?" We cut to Mr. Doe having a memory, seeing Wang Tae-soo on the ground while someone tried to help him up. The person trying to help him up is, you guessed it, Cha Sung-jae, Namun Young's husband. He tells Mr. Doe that Wang Tae-soo is under the influence again and that he must have been remembering his time in the army. Cha Sung-jae tells Mr. Doe that he was going to take Wang Tae-soo to the hospital. Mr. Doe offered to come with him, but Cha Sung-jae said he didn't need him to. Unfortunately, that was the last time Mr. Doe ever saw Hwang Tae-soo. Hwang Tae-soo was known around town for having mental health issues, and he was poor. So, just like in real life, the police didn't care. We cut back to the present. Mr. Doe says he believes Namun Young's husband, Cha Sung-jae, is alive and that he took over Wang Tae-soo's identity. Namun Young laughs and says, "What? Why would he do that?" Mr. Doe says, "If you don't believe me, just keep trying to find your husband. You're not going to find Cha Sung-jae." Namun Young is in disbelief and tries to tell him that her husband is a good person. And he's such a good person that even when they found injured dogs on the street, he would try and do everything he could to help. Do you know what Mr. Doe replies to that? "Your husband used to go hunting for animals with Ma Gong. Yes, that Ma Gong." I have to say, he's being quite harsh on her, knowing that she's just had her entire world rocked in 3 days. But, again, attractive people can get away with a lot. So Namun Young runs back to her husband's law firm and she starts looking through everything. She's trying to find any pictures to either prove or disprove what the witness is telling her. Unfortunately, she finds a picture of her husband with Ma Gong. Anyways, she heads home and calls her prosecutor friend to vent her thoughts. And she's still on the phone with her when all of a sudden, that attractive mean man is in her house looking through her fridge and pouring himself some water. She tells her prosecutor friend that she will call her back in 30 minutes. And if she does not hear from her in 30 minutes, to call the police. She tells Ma Gong to leave, but then he places the shoebox that she found in her closet on the table. He opens it and tells her, "This isn't enough money. Your husband took 7 billion won from me. The money in this shoebox is only 500 million won." Ma Gong wonders aloud, "Did your husband have a mistress? Was he gambling?" Then he cuts her emotionally and says, "Is the money in the shoebox really all he left for his family?" Now Young freezes. Ma Gong says he'll give her 1 week to get him his money. She tells him that she does not have that kind of money, and he responds by randomly saying that her daughter should be home soon, and they have taken care of her. Namun Young rushes out and sees that snarky bodyguard pulling up with her daughter. She keeps looking and digging around and finds a contract signed between her husband and Ma Gong for, that's right, 7 billion won, the amount Ma Gong said her husband owed him. So she's thinking, okay, maybe my husband wasn't doing shady things. She storms right into Ma Gong's place of work, bursts through the doors while he's having a meeting, and places the contract on the table. He immediately recognizes what it is and tells everyone to leave the room. He begins preparing to clock her again by snapping his fingers in her face and saying, "Wake up, ma'am." But she tells him this time she's coming to him as an attorney. I mean, I have to say, she's pretty confident for someone who has no idea what's going on, but I support it, you know? She tries and says, "You were trying to money launder and now you're in trouble. You never gave those people their money. If this is really all my husband's fault, then why is your name not on any of these documents?" And I was kind of like, oh, Namun Young, like, you kind of have the answer to that already. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to know why it would be smart to have another person put their name on documentation of illegal activity. So, she's fallen again. Ma Gong's response is, "Why would I trust your husband with this? Because he was cheap and easy. He had the lowest fee. And I knew he was connected to a foundation." Oh, he keeps getting you, girl. But just when I was about to counter out, she says, "Well, I know that you know that the people above you won't care about that excuse. And now you owe them that money. So if you threaten to use my daughter against me ever again, you're going to pay." She didn't clock any tea, but she got him. And sometimes that's all you need. She immediately calls Mr. Doe and tells him her theory. She thinks her husband agreed to give people with low incomes money by setting up bank accounts in their names and promising to deposit checks from the foundation into those accounts once the people left their homes. But instead, the people would leave their homes and then never hear from her husband or the foundation again because her husband used those bank accounts to move around money for the corporation. Mr. Doe looks like maybe he believes it, but he's still on the fence. He tells her that he knows of someone who creates burner phones and that her husband recently went to that person and created a burner phone account under the name Wang Tae Soo. Oh, so she goes back home and immediately calls that number, again and again and again and again, but no one answers. So she just pours herself some soju because, who wouldn't need some at that time? The next day, she makes a tiny mistake and goes to her horrible mother in law to break the news that Cha Sung Jae might actually be alive. As expected, her mother in law is the worst and tells her to stop with all this nonsense. But then, when she tells her mother in law that Cha Sung Jae might have tried to pew pew someone yesterday, her mother in law responds, "Cha Sung Jae would never do." Now, why would you use that phrasing about something that happened yesterday after your loved one was gone? Nam Won Young picked up on that, and she demands to know, whose body did I see? Who did you burn? This horrible woman just tells Nam Won Young to leave her house, but Nam Won Young isn't going to take this anymore. And she shows her mother in law that her phone number is on the call log of this burner account associated with her allegedly gone husband. She gives her mother in law one more chance to just tell the truth, but the mother in law refuses. So she says, "Fine, we'll all talk," and goes to get the father in law. Only then does the mother in law start talking and begging Nam Won Young not to tell him. So this means she was in on this with her son and also betrayed her husband. What a mother son duo. Nam Won Young is over this and leaves to look for more clues at Wang Tae Soo's house. We cut to her there, and she's looking around, not really finding anything yet, when we suddenly realize that she's not alone. Someone is walking up behind her, and I think you know who it is, her quote unquote perfect husband. But he's crying. He looks so sorrowful. Why did he do this? Why did he ruin everything? Someone Young immediately bursts into tears. Would you take him back? Would you forgive him? I must say, I feel like he's looking more handsome. What would you do in this situation? What would you do if you were Namun Young? Comment below and subscribe so that you can find out what she decides to do. I will be back in a few days. See you soon.